There's three things that are certain in life, ladies and gentlemen. Death, paying your taxes, and having smelly feet after taking your dog for a long walk along the beach. And that's what I have right now, and I haven't changed my socks yet. Haven't had time. I definitely have had time, but I just haven't done that yet. Don't know why I'm telling you any of this. Either way, today we're going to be checking out 7 questions Brit always asks me about America and its people. You! This video is about you. I'm about to get inside your head. Anyway, if you're new here, hello. You've probably left. If you haven't, nice to meet you. If you want to subscribe, like the video, that would make me very happy indeed. By the way, before I play this, guys, I've said this like 1,000 times, but you guys are continuing to do it. Thank you so much for hitting the subscribe button on this little channel of ours. It's so sick, and I love seeing the channel grow the way it's grown, and to see all the new faces in the comments, because I read every single goddamn one of them. Even the bad ones, it kind of hurt me a little bit, but I try to play it off, okay?
I'm Lawrence, to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains...
What the f was this?
Questions. Specifically, questions that British people ask me about the United States and its people.
I'm Lawrence Brown, and this video is sponsored by Squarespace.
If you've been paying attention...
Lawrence, I can't listen to that one. I'm not allowed. Sorry.
Or, why is Arkansas pronounced Arkansas, not Arkansas?
Arkansas or Arkansas.
And so,
Exactly.
I'm drawing on all of my expertise of living in the United States to answer questions like these today, so that maybe all of the British friends and family members that are asking these questions finally shut the up. That said, I really like people, and since we're on our way to 1 million subscribers, if you're not yet one of them, do that now!
Already am, brother.
In the meantime, here are 7 of the most common questions that I get asked by British people about America and Americans.
Oh, here we go.
Number 1, why do Americans call their sport football when they don't?
I know he's about to give the answer, right? Because that's the point of it. But it's just a bit strange, isn't it? Like, I understand that soccer is called soccer, but why? What does soccer even mean? We call it football because it's played with our feet all the time. Every player except the goalkeeper uses their feet too, but predominantly 99% of a game is used with your feet and it's played with the ball. You guys call football and it's basically all in the hand except for when they kick it the whole time. It's just my 2 pence, okay? I know you're going to be like, Adam, shut the f up. And that's all right.
Don't use their feet. Well, firstly, that's not entirely true.
I know.
I think we've all seen it.
Yes,
where a
they
player
kick the
takes
fucking
ball,
thing.
puts it down, kicks it in slow motion. That might just be in the movies. And everybody goes crazy. So it must be an important part of the sport. But secondly, I did some Googling and I found out that it's called football because of the sports from which it's derived. See, back in the 19th century, Britain was developing a series of ball games. One of them, famously, was soccer, or to give it its full name, association football. And this was called association football because they had to differentiate it from something else called rugby football. Rugby football did indeed go by the name of rugby football, and in fact sometimes does to this day, despite the fact that they too don't use their feet unless they're kicking it over a giant H or down the field, or maybe some other ways. And American-style football basically took its cues from rugby football, and the name stuck.
Well, there you go.
All right, this question I get a lot.
You guys copied us. I finally got something over you guys. Let's go.
Why is American bread so sweet? And we have to make a bit of a distinction here, because the bread that we're talking about is the kind of store-bought bread that you get in supermarkets that are used for sandwiches. And it's true, one of my earliest experiences in this country was raiding my mother-in-law's bread bin when I was hungry late at night. And I was really excited because, as everybody knows, there's nothing better than bread and butter at midnight. That's just me, right? But it was really sweet. It was almost like I was having a late night dessert. And basically, this additional sweetness on American
Wait, is it the butter that's really, really sweet, or is it the actual bread?
Bread comes down to one word: added sugar. That's 2 words.
I mean, surely that's
true.
That's
As somebody
obvious.
who gave up added sugar a couple of years ago, I was shocked to find just how much added sugar was found in American bread. 2 grams of added sugar, which is 4%. 3 grams of added sugar, 6%. Now, there's a couple of things to add here beyond sugar. Number 1, the addition of added sugar is supposedly intentional in order to prolong the life of the bread. And pound for pound, I have found that American bread takes a bit longer to turn green. I was a student in England, so I've got a lot of
bread ain't great, man.
Field. But the other thing to point out is
you're not eating green bread.
American bread is sweet. Since giving up added sugar, I've mostly turned to sourdough or rye, some of which have 0 added sugar, which tastes great with some strawberry jam. which I've just realised has added sugar.
And something else that's really sweet, my new and improved website at lostinthepond.com. As my YouTube channel grows ever nearer to 1 million subscribers, it only makes sense that I have a central hub
so
for
cool,
all things
though.
pond. And now, thanks to Squarespace, I do.
In 2020.
And get me in trouble!
Number 3, are you scared of all the guns? And I would say not all of them. I used to love the Super Soaker 5000. And in fact, it's a weird one, this, because while guns are definitely
Homicide rates by firearm per 100,000 people. Oh, hold on a minute. No, I'm not so shocked. Sorry, I got my flags mixed up. I thought this was for some reason at the UK and this was US. Yeah, this makes sense, obviously, for the obvious reason.
used to kill more people in America than they are in Britain. I don't particularly live in fear of them because number 1, I'm an optimist, some would say a blind optimist. And number 2, so long as you stay in the right part of town and or don't become a member of a gang, there's a good chance that you can go 16 years living in America without seeing gun violence firsthand. Now, that's not to say, of course, that America hasn't had many well-documented mass shooting events. And these, of course, horrific as they are, paint a picture that there are shootings on every corner of every city at every second of every day. I don't want you to come here with that false impression because otherwise you won't ever leave your hotel. And I can hear my Uncle Toby right now, but Lawrence, there are 30,000 gun-related deaths in America every year. And that is a big number, but you have to keep in mind that unfortunately...
Jesus Christ, man. Hey, we gotta look at this though. This is obviously the biggest drop in a long while, isn't it? Hopefully this keeps going to 0. That's sad, man. With this suicide is still gun-related. So these are gun-related suicides.
Over half of those are suicides. But even though this is a very serious subject, I wanted to answer it because while there clearly are people in this country who will pick up a gun and do the unthinkable, your chances of dying in this way during a given year, never mind a 2-week visit, are approximately 1 in 32,000. So don't worry too much and just be vigilant. Okay, can we get back to the comedy
I don't lie, 1 in 32,000 still scares me, but I can't lie.
stuff now?
Do you Americans think you know the Queen?
The next question. Oh, get this all the time. Do
Well,
Americans
not anymore,
think
obviously.
you know the Queen? No, because she's dead. But also, despite this being a kind of stereotype of Americans, I've received this question, or a question along these lines, precisely once. I was in a
Hey,
training
I'm
class
not laughing because she's dead, man. It's just the way he put it across. Rip Queen.
back when I worked in a call centre, and in those call centre training classes, you get a big mishmash of many different types of people. And I was put with this one fellow who was weirdly obsessed with my accent, who kept bombarding me with questions, one of which was, why do you call soccer football? Happens in reverse. And his question was something along the lines of, did you used to live near the Queen? And even though I don't think he meant it in this way, I suppose relatively speaking, I did, because I lived in London. She lived in London.
Technically,
We were
you
like
did then.
buddies. But I got the sense that he meant, did you live in the same apartment complex? And the thought of the Queen paying rent is quite laughable because she's dead. Why is it called the World Series when only Americans play? And once again, that is completely and utterly a little bit false, because it's not just American teams. There's a Canadian one as well. And secondly, I need to dispel a myth. For the longest time, it was believed that the baseball competition's name came from the fact that they were sponsored by the New York World Telegram newspaper. The assertion being that they took the word world, try saying that after 4 whiskeys, and named it that with utterly no pretension of being a global competition. But that theory has since been...
Well, in my opinion, if it's called the World Series, I'm pretty sure that's just pure clickbait, right? Like the World Cup. Oh, everyone's involved. I don't know where I'm going. Sorry, my bad. It's maybe you call the World Series because people think everyone's involved, so it might get more eyes on it. I don't know.
The real origin of the name is this. In 1903, the owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates challenged his counterpart at the Boston Red Sox to what he dubbed a World Championship Series, because at the time, the Pirates were the best team in the National League and the Red Sox were the best team in the American League. And why the National League and the American League don't mean the same thing, I'll never know. But it seems like he used it ironically and it sort of just stuck and then evolved into the World Series. There is, of course, a baseball competition that does include different countries, and that is the World Baseball Classic, which is sort of like a dime store version of the FIFA World Cup, but with baseball.
Why do Americans tell you they're
Why do American tourists in Britain tell you the state they're from before they name their country? And I too have experience with this because when I met my American wife over in England, my first words to her were, "Hi, I'm Lawrence. I was named after the actor Laurence Olivier. Isn't that impressive?" But my second words to her were, "Where are you from?" To which she answered, "Indiana." And I've never asked her about that. Maybe she said Indiana because I assumed from her accent that she was from the United States, but actually when I asked her it, I remember thinking, well, you could be Canadian. I could end up looking like a right numpty if I assume your Americanness. But equally, for those of us who have a bit of geographical nous, I know
I do
from the
not.
answer Indiana that
I
she is
do
from the United
not.
States. The problem is, not everybody in Britain knows all of the 50 states. Not everybody in America does, come to that. So I suppose in some ways it is kind of weird, but then on the other hand, I think Americans do carry a little bit of pride in their roots, where they came from, not their hair, although in my wife's
Hey. Where are you from? Let me know below. I want to know what state you guys are from.
both. And so maybe it's a manifestation of that. It's sort of like when Americans go around wearing their college jumpers / sweaters, because I think it might be to Americans a status symbol. I've no idea actually why they do that. Sorry, I've just made most of that up. Let me know in the comments why you do it, if you do. Actually, there's a decent chance that you don't, because of this.
What?
Why don't many Americans own passports? Well, as I said in a video that I did all about this a few years ago, the answer is multifaceted.
Firstly, while only 42% of Americans own a passport compared to 86% of Brits, significantly more Americans these days do own a passport than they did 30 years ago, which was approximately when I first started. Americans own a passport compared to 86% of Brits, significantly.
In 1990, only 11 million Americans had a passport. Holy shit. That's crazy. Compared to now, 30 years later, roughly, just under 30 years later, 131 million. Holy shiitake mushrooms, bro.
More Americans these days do own a passport than they did 30 years ago, which was approximately when I first started hearing about this stereotype. And secondly,
there's this perception that America is so huge and packed with variety,
you won't need to
you
leave.
can just do all of your traveling here. And while that isn't necessarily an idea that I subscribe to, it is one that many Americans do. And because arguably way more
Do you not need like a passport or some sort of ID to like go over borders between states or anything?
Americans than Brits have family members and friends that live 1,000 miles away in the same country. Sometimes in order to see them, that necessitates that they take a holiday within the country. But it's not cheap. You know, domestic flights can get up to $1,000. And so that would be one of the other reasons that a lot of Americans don't travel internationally, is they simply can't afford it. And I know what you're thinking. Yeah, Lawrence. But isn't it also down to a lack of curiosity on the part of Americans? And I think it would be hard to argue that there isn't an element of that. But that just comes down to what they're exposed to. If you compare the news cycles of both Britain and America, the BBC reports on countries from all over the world, even countries that don't have oil. How mad is that? Whereas when America provides international reports, it's usually on countries that they have a vested interest in due to their foreign policy. So I think America just isn't exposed to other countries as much, and this is heightened, of course, by the fact that they are bordered only by Mexico and Canada. If you go over to Britain, we're bordered by the sea, but then the rest of Europe with all of the countries that come with that. Now, that's not to say that no Americans travel abroad, otherwise I wouldn't have met my wife and or moved to the United States and started this very channel. So I'm glad she did.
Nice. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that whole passport one is shocking. Do you own a passport? Was there ever a time you didn't own one? Up to recently? That was a pretty cool video. I like that guy, Lawrence. He's a funny guy, man. Guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you can, please leave a like on the video and subscribe. And let me know down below what your favorite sandwich is. Also, I stream over on Twitch. There's a link in the pinned comment if you guys want to, do the thing. See you later.